Hello, and thank you for tuning into this podcast by Survival Supply Point. Today's topic is going to be carb preparedness. So let's start at the top. Having a safe and effective vehicle is important, whether it's just your daily life, your commute, or to evacuate a city. See, your vehicle ends up being your home away from home, and if you want to get tacky, I guess you could say it's your mobile home. If you lost your home today and you were just cut off from it for whatever reason, whether that's a natural disaster or civil unrest or any other reason, all you would have is the things in your car. So honestly, let's sit back and think right now, how do you think you would fare? What do you have in your car now? You probably have a water bottle that's drinking halfway sitting in the back seat of the car, and it's accumulated with a bunch of other stuff. You have a fast food wrapper on the floor that you got this morning because you forgot to wake up early on time, but at least you got some napkins. You might have the jumper cable, a spare tire, lug nut wrench, or a briefcase or backpack. Ladies, you might actually have a competitive advantage. You got a purse, and usually you just jam-pack full of that with resources. But let's just be honest, you wouldn't survive a week, maybe not even the day. But granted, I'm just laying out the worst-case scenario. But let's just say you're driving through the desert, or get stranded in the desert rather, or a forest region anywhere in the world, where there are not going to be many drivers around, let alone ones that even stop to help you. So even if it's just a cross-country trip, your car ends up becoming your second home. So let me start with just the type of vehicle that you should probably purchase next, or if you can, purchase now. The best type of vehicle has an all-wheel drive or 4x4 capability, usually a SUV or truck, because it gives you some ground clearance. This will allow you to go off-road to some extent, but unfortunately for my sports car fans out there, you guys are just at a massive disadvantage. Going 0 to 60 in whatever seconds isn't going to matter when you can't even jump a curb, let alone a rock and a speed bump. You're restricted to the road, and that's never a good thing. But hey, any car is better than no car. But if you don't have the ability to get a truck or SUV, I want to make sure that you're prepared for general situations to have some level of success. So this is always going to cost some amount of money, but it's better than or at least cheaper than a new or used SUV. So first we should start with the tires. You should always buy all-terrain tires. This will allow you to help have some more control while daily driving, whether that's rain, mud, ice, snow, and that's just in the road, let alone the ability that you'll now have to go off-road. I recommend that you do this with SUVs and trucks as well. It doesn't matter if you have a 4x4 or all-wheel drive, if you have a bunch of slick tires that can't get any traction. So before I even continue this list, there are a bunch of modifications you can make to a vehicle to prepare for all sorts of situations. But I just want to give you a point of reference, or at least kind of a starting list, to give yourself a better chance. Your car is just an advanced bug-out bag. And you're going to want to outfit that bag or put into that bag things that prepare you for more likely situations and then branch out to more extreme situations. But you do not want a trunk just jam-packed full of stuff that you might never use. So you need to kind of think to yourself, what's the most important things I need and who needs them? So, who's going to be in this car? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have kids? If you're married, that's 2 people you have to think about. If you have kids, it's even more. I'm not telling you not to have kids. I'm just saying they're a liability and you shouldn't have them unless you know you're going to grow old and die alone because there's no one there to protect you. But I digress. I'm kidding. So what do you need in that car? I want to say there's a million things you could put in the car. People spend thousands of dollars on the bug-out bags I talked about. But normally those people live at home, have a ton of lonely Friday nights, and have plenty of money to spend on a quote-unquote end-of-the-world situation. I'm trying to be realistic for you and the situations you'll probably go through. So what would you actually need in the car? So here's my list. 1, a spare tire. This is for obvious reasons. I'm not really going to explain this one, but if you don't have a spare tire in your car, please get it. It's one of the more likely situations you'll have to pull over for. The means to change that tire, a lug nut wrench, a car jack, maybe a small piece of lumber. I personally put the piece of lumber in there, like a short 2x4, so that I can put something behind the wheel in case, for whatever reason, I have to change that tire on a incline or decline. So now we move to jumper cables. So right now, at this point in the list, if you don't have these items in your car right now, you're kind of behind, but that's okay. That's why you're here. Now, the rest of this list is stuff that's common sense that I would highly recommend. The stuff before is all must. Like there's no debating this. You don't want to be that person that has to tow their car because they didn't have a spare tire or have to ask around if somebody has jumper cables. But now we're moving to the part where, okay, you should have this, but it's not the mandatory stuff. Oh, before I forget, I'm going to put tire chains on here so it just doesn't wind up in the comments. This is more of a regional necessity. However, it would behoove you to have some in your car because you don't know where the world's going to take you. So go ahead and just throw those in there as well. And obviously, it would be more mandatory if you live somewhere where it snows more often. Next would be a fire extinguisher. Your typical car or truck has a combustion engine. Combustion means fire. A way to stop that fire is probably a good thing to have in your car. Okay, so now we continue on. If you're single and don't have a sweater and a blanket in the car, just take a mental note. It might be nice. You take a long walk on the beach, it's a little chilly out. Your significant other's a little cold, but you want that date to continue. Go ahead and throw that sweater or wrap around in that blanket. Might be a cute cuddle time. But if you're a parent, just go ahead, pause this video, and go do that now. The likelihood you will use this is time and time again. Whether it's you go out and your child's game runs a little long, and so it's getting cold, or you're at the park, or watching the 4th of July fireworks, the likelihood of you using this is incredibly high, and your children are going to get cold, you're going to get cold. Family events usually take longer, so this is just something you need to do right now. Moving on, flares. Flares are good because they not only mark your crash, alerting drivers and yourself, which increases the amount of safety on the road because awareness is half the battle. But also, if you need a little flare, if you have to abandon the car for whatever reason and you have to move through a dark area, you now have a torch. Okay, so now I get to the part where you might get some flack or some things in the comment section. A gallon of water. So there are a couple things you can do, but there's also a couple thoughts behind them. So there's been research that if you have a gallon of water or plastic water bottles in the car, that when they heat up, that particles get released and it can give you cancer in 10, 20, 30 years. I'm not a doctor, so I'm just going to agree it's not the healthiest thing to do, to be drinking hot water bottles. But having quote unquote bad pure water is better than no water. Also, it serves extra uses by being able to fill up your radiator. I don't know if you've seen that on the side of the road where people's cars are smoking up with white smoke. You have the ability to put water, clean water, inside of your car. So I suggest also that anybody has a gallon of water in the car, but before they leave the house, for whatever reason, as long as it's not just some small trip to the post office and back, that you bring a water bottle, especially if you know you're going to have some bit of a drive. And then that water bottle that you know is good water, you have on hand, but if you need to supplement it for whatever reason, and again, this is for an emergency, you have that water on hand. So speaking of car problems, another nice thing to have in the car is duct tape. It's cheap. It can help patch for a short, limited amount of time tubing in the car. So this will allow you to buy yourself some time to nurse yourself to the gas station. Now, as a legal disclaimer, if you don't know what you're doing with your car and you duct tape some stuff and you mess your car up or get yourself hurt or worse, that's on you. But if all you get is a fender bender, but the bumper keeps dragging on the floor, the ability to go ahead and hard tape that up so you can drive to the nearest gas station or home or wherever, saves you not only time, but money. Just a side note on that, it's a good idea to keep your car manual in your car if you don't have it. And if you don't have it, a lot of it, that information's available online. You can print that out. But just make sure you know what you're doing when you're working on your car. So the next on this list is a tarp. Now, while some people might think, oh, cool, he's starting to get really survival-y, let's do a makeshift tent. That's a good idea, but I use it more for working on the car and not having to lay on burning asphalt. If any of you have ever changed a tire before in a hot day, laying on that ground is not nice at all. And also, you have other uses for it. Like, you can use it for that tent reason, but also, if you're a parent, you have kids, and you have to go to a morning soccer game, and there's all that dew on the floor, but you can't, put a blanket down or it'll soak the blanket. You can lay that tarp down. Now you got a place to sit. So there's many different uses. You also have the ability to tarp your car for whatever reason if you have to, park it in a certain place for a long period of time. So there's just so many uses for a tarp. It's just good to have one on hand. Moving on, a first aid kit in the car. I'm not going to have to explain this one because if you don't understand why you should have a first aid kit in the car, you probably need a lot more than a first aid kit. But again, if you're single, it's one of those luxury items. If you are a parent, it is a must. Moving on, a small auto toolkit. They're running $20, $40 at a Walmart, a Home Depot, a Lowe's. They'll be able to make most of the repairs on the vehicle. This one is a no-brainer. Next is a paracord. Having paracord on hand is nice in case you want to hang that tarp we discussed earlier, but you could also use rope. The only problem with rope is when your neighbors and the police see you throw rope in the back of the car, there's some question marks there. Paracord, for whatever reason, doesn't get that same response. Having paracord on hand is also nice. I like to go hiking, so being able to tie it to the tree and tie it to the car and having a way to hang up the sweaty clothes. There's just a lot of different uses for rope in general, so having some rope is good to have as well. Just try and make it paracord, obviously for the looks. Now, having some food with some good shelf life in the car is ideal. I'm not really going to dig into what kind of food you should have in the car. That's a topic later down the road. Car puns, roads intended. But you're going to want to throw something in there and not have to think about it, and that's why you want that shelf life. But then you also want to think, okay, I'm a single man or woman, and now I have something in the car in case that scenario that I played earlier, you can't get back to your home and you want to be able to last a week. You have something at least in your car until you have to figure out something else. Or if you're a parent and the kid's in the back seat saying they're hungry, and they're bothering you, there's a way to, we'll call it, silence them. Continuing on, there is closed-toed shoes, whether that's running shoes or boots. The easiest way to do this is boots and running shoes that you plan to get rid of, whether that's donate or throw in the trash. Just go ahead and put those in the trunk. That way they're free, and if you weren't going to use them anyway, now they're out of your way. But if something happens, you can go ahead and throw your flip-flops or high heels off and put some shoes on. Now you're back in the action, whether that's a pickup game with your friends or if you're one of the people that believes the zombie apocalypse is coming, now you're ready for that. Okay, and then with the zombie apocalypse, a weapon that wouldn't be good in that but would be good in the back of your trunk would be a small umbrella or a large golf umbrella, whether that's just to keep yourself in the shade, maybe increase your long day at the beach. Having one in the back, obviously in a more rainy environment, would be ideal, but just having that in the back of the car for whatever reason is just nice to have, so you don't have to think about it if that storm rolls in and you had no idea it was coming. Next is a trash bag or a contractor bag. This one's good for a couple of reasons. You can use it for its intended purpose to collect the trash in your car we discussed earlier. You can cut some holes in it and make it a poncho. If you buy the right type of bags, it can actually hold liquids, like a big 55-gallon one to pick up water. But I would recommend, granted you have a million trash bags or however many, a box of 200 in your pantry right now, you can go ahead and pull one of those out and put it in the back of the car, and that's free. Or you can go to Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot, pick up for $5, I believe it's 18 or 20 bags of contractor bags, and these things are really tough and you can do a lot more with it. Also, that trash bag, if you buy the right thickness, being the contractor bag, you can use it as that tarp we discussed earlier. So you can put that on the floor if you don't feel like going out and getting a tarp. Some of these items can be interchanged. You can also use the trash bag to create shade, or a poncho, and that would take care of the whole rain issue as well. So there's a lot of different uses for a contractor bag or a trash bag. That's just something to take in consideration. Last on my list is a tire inflator. These are becoming more affordable as the years have gone on. I've seen some as low as $15, and I know you could probably get them for a wholesale a lot less than that. It helps when you have a small leak in your tire. If you just got that nail and there's just that slow trickle, it'll allow you to keep filling up your car and nursing it back to safety, which will save you a whole bunch of money when it comes to towing, and then it'll save you time because obviously the tow truck has to get out to you, and depending where you are, that could take minutes or hours. So that's something to take into consideration. So again, this is just my no-brainer, everyday carry list of things you should have in your trunk without overfilling your trunk with a bunch of things. I'm not going to ask you to like, share, subscribe, any of this stuff. You're going to do what you want anyway. But please comment on the video for things or ideas for things for me to cover, from the everyday to the abstract. And if there's anything on this list you think I missed for daily carry in the car, please comment below. This is Joe with the Survival Supply Point, and we'll see you next time.